Now, it has happened on 2 separate occasions when I've been re-entering the country in which I live that I've been stopped by Border Patrol and asked once what I did for a living, and the other time what I was doing when I was out of the country. The first time I answered with I work at a warehouse repairing old film cameras, which was met with the Border Patrol agent saying that's not a real job, to which I said, okay. The second time I said I went out of the country to go take pictures, which was met with that's not a thing people do, to which I said, okay. I bring these anecdotes up not only to flex my very odd interactions with law enforcement, but mainly to draw attention to certain life choices I have made, which have led me down this path, which I have a hard time explaining in a succinct way to people in social gatherings and events and parties and things like that. People ask, what do you do? Make videos on the internet where I talk about film cameras that haven't been made in 40, 50, 60 years sometimes. I repair those things for people. Occasionally I clean out an office building. Sometimes even take down cubicles. Cool, what'd you go to school for? Film. Nice, okay, that makes more sense. You went to film school. And in the ever-evolving landscape of social media and content creation, I look at the assets that I have on hand, namely my legs, which are conveniently out of shot for this particular video, and I think, how can I leverage this into greater success, fame, and fortune so I can buy groceries and stuff, pay rent, good things like that. And the thing I always come back to is this infinite abyss of knowledge that I have accumulated over the past decade of repairing film cameras and thinking, oh, I could probably do more with that. So I will then, with that thought in mind, typically very late at night, under the coercion of the voices and the little goblins inside my brain saying I need to buy that, I will go on the internet and buy dumb shit, which leads us to the purchase of this Samoka Super Rangefinder. Now, at face value, this is a harmless little trinket, a little treasure from a bygone era of film cameras. It is over-designed, it is really beautiful in a certain light, and it doesn't work. And it didn't work when I got it. Now, when I opened it up, I was filled with these ideas, these thumbnails of fixing a forgotten film camera, resurrecting this beautiful but forgotten artifact, best camera you've never heard of, stuff like that, okay? Stuff to kind of get the juices flowing of people. I gotta see what this guy's talking about. He usually talks about dumb shit, but this looks like it might be worthwhile. But I'm pleased to present with you the fact that this is actually not at all worthwhile. Now, the repair process of this camera was actually quite interesting. The reason why it was broken was also very interesting. These are all things that I might bore you with in a little bit here with a separate video that I might cut to. Got critical focus here. Samoka Super Rangefinder. Here is how this camera works. A focusing dial here. You can see it correlates with this up here and the readout on top. Best case scenario, this actually lines up. In my situation, it did not. There is your aperture selection right here. There's a 50mm 2.8 lens. It has one of the most satisfying aperture sounds I can think of. There's a flash sync switch here, which is kind of cool if you're into that. Your shutter speed dial here. Shutter speeds range from 1/10 up to 1/200. There is also a bulb setting. There is a light meter as well. Does not work. And that correlates into this meter as well. Again, does not work. Winding knob here, a shutter release knob there, a rewind switch, and as you advance this, there is an arm that travels along here to charge the shutter. I will show you that in a moment. There's also a fire and a lock switch, which is kind of nice. So if you don't want to take a shot, you can slide that over. To remove the bottom, you slide this over to the open position, and this pops open. When you press the rewind, that will disengage this take-up spool and you'll be able to rewind your film. Pressure plate is the worst thing ever, but it works in tandem with this rear pressure plate there, maintaining the film on the film plane. I'm going to put the back on because that sound drives me up a wall. In the effort of preserving whatever sanity exists still within my mind, I'm going to keep that on. So I've already moved the leather cover that sits right there. What we're going to do is I'm going to set the focus to infinity, not that it matters, and I'm going to unscrew this. Now, there is a screw here that I am taking out, and there's also a spring behind the screw, and as I've had to take this apart a few times, you want to make sure that that spring does not go flying, because I don't know if there is any replacement parts. The gear teeth are kind of like linked in there, so you have to do a little shimmy act, but it'll come out eventually. There's a small little set screw knob thing in there, which lines up with a little notch right there to maintain accuracy in your focus marks. I ended up actually rotating the focus all the way to the maximum 3.5, so it's no longer at infinity if that comes up. There's a screw here we're going to remove. Most of the screws on this are flathead, which is pretty common. You can see these long shoulder screws there, same kind of screw type there. And we're looking to only remove these like rounded off presentation like screws. There's another screw right there that does not need to come out. Take this out. All of them are kind of the same, and then this whole system just pulls off like that. It's actually kind of nice, if I'm completely honest with you. I enjoy the dismantling process, even though it is a massive pain in the ass. So you'll see here, here's the focusing system. And the reason why this is here is to link to the focusing barrel in the lens. This needs to be here to adjust the focusing rangefinder patch, as this is a rangefinder camera system. So when you rotate this, that is going to correlate to the path motion. Now, this is what I was talking about in the charging mechanism. There is this system here. As I advance, this gets pulled along, and notice how it resets. So this is the arm that travels along like that. So think of that arm pressing this inwards, and then this is your shutter firing mechanism. I can slow it down. I'm going to set it to 1/10 so you can see charging. Notice the escapement there. And there you are. Okay. Pretty straightforward. The thing that was going on was this system here. You can kind of see how destroyed it is. I basically had to reform this as best I could and reshape it, so that way this is getting the full range of motion, because if you don't advance this all the way, if you were to say like partially advance it, it was getting to the point where it was advancing enough to charge the shutter, but then also firing. So it's very important that this clicks over and locks into that notch right there in order to fire. Put this all together. You just make sure that this is back where it needs to be, not advanced at all. This is also not advanced. And then you just kind of latch them in like so. Make sure it fits nice and snug and bug as a rug. Just put the screws back in. Call it a day. It's pretty straightforward. As I mentioned, there is a lot of enjoyment in the simplicity of this camera system. I also removed the top in order to clean the viewfinder out, because like most of these rangefinders of that age, the focus patch was incredibly dim. Now, getting the spring back in here and then screwing it in is a can of worms that I don't really fully know how to get into without losing my mind, but it goes something like you press this in, and then you have to kind of press the screw in such a way that there's the lead part of the spring. You have to kind of press in and down, so that way the screw doesn't end up falling into the spring. Now, typically I was using I have these bigger flathead screwdrivers I don't usually use, but for this it helps because you need to press down on it evenly across the whole portion of the screw, and then also be able to screw in. As you can see, there's this split in the middle there, so a smaller screwdriver like this doesn't quite bridge the gap as well. This kind of helps. I was able to at least get it started, and then here we can tighten it up as needs must, and there we are. So that's cool if you're into that kind of thing. And then just put this over the top. You'll have to kind of re-glue it, but I'm not really going to probably use this again, so I don't care that much. But yeah, there you go, just like that. Like I said, beautiful camera. When it works, it's pretty great. And but there you are, the Simoca rangefinder super, whatever you want to call it. Pretty good, cool looking little camera. Focus questionable, actual operation of the camera itself questionable, but that's how you at least take the front part off. That's some of the operations of the system, if you were at all ever curious, which I highly doubt anyone was. But if not, I will give you the Cliff Notes version. Basically, there's an advanced mechanism which moves along the front of this camera that then charges the shutter. And what was happening was that advanced mechanism was slightly bent out of shape, meaning the full range of motion was not engaging the shutter charging mechanism, meaning that it would inevitably decide randomly that it wanted to fire. So that was an issue because obviously if you can't control when the shutter is going to fire, it's very hard to take pictures. So using all of the zero information that was on the internet about the Simoca Super Rangefinder, surprisingly not a very well-known camera system, I bent the thing back into place at what I thought was about tolerance. And that seemed to work. However, in putting the camera back together, I unfortunately did not make note of how the lens came out, which is important because lenses are important. How they go into the barrel is important because that controls the focus of the camera, and if that does not sync up entirely, then your focus is not going to work. Now, I noticed this issue when I was out shooting with it because the rangefinder patch was way out of sync from where it should have been. So I decided to take a few exposures at different points to make sure that I was getting a wide spread of options. Now, actually what happened was everything was just out of focus. It didn't really matter what I did or what the rangefinder patch said or what the marcations on the lens itself said. Everything was out of focus, which was great, meaning that this whole process, this whole video, of which I barely recorded any of the repair process and barely talked about up to that point, was a complete and utter waste of time, money, resources, leading inevitably to this video where I'm trying to kind of buy back some of my sanity in hopes that I can rationalize this decision to buy this camera with just saying, stick with the basics, stick with the Canon, stick with the K1000s. All of these things are beautiful and fun in their own right, but there's an element of them that is very complicated, and as beautiful as it is, and it is quite beautiful in a certain way, it is perchance better left on a shelf. Now, I might revisit this in the future, talk about some of the more unique details about this certain model, and specifically the aperture clicking there. For the time being, that's going to round up my general thoughts on this, and the photos that are displayed behind me, all out of focus, are of this camera. So enjoy, and thank you for watching. Appreciate it as always. Like the video, enjoy it, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one.